Christmas, you filthy animals, and welcome back to HMP. I hope you got what you wanted this year, but if you did or didn't, don't worry. We got one more gift for you, the gift of HMP. And joining me today, if there's one thing that he said, it's women be shopping. Sweet Sean Zakovacs from the internet.
Who told you could eat my cookies?
And he taught Jake Lloyd all he knows. Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, but that's not a Power Ranger. Wait, maybe it is.
This is the worst song I found on.
That's pretty great. I love this.
This is.
It's just
so
you like to talk over it is probably a bad idea.
No,
it's a sin to talk over this.
Yeah.
Now, Christmas or Santa in a Helicopter is a song you can talk over.
Oh my goodness, it is bad news there. But welcome back, everybody. This week we're covering Jingle All The Way from 1990. Is it 4? 6?
96.
Man, 1996
Phantom Menace is the important
crazy.
thing to know.
Yeah, we'll get into all that good stuff. Before we do want to say a big giant thank you to the people who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, and Dinger Zone. Dinger Zone, we kind of laid out what my Christmas scam is this year. I've got a mild prank that we're doing. Next week, you'll probably hear the result of that and what happened. Did people get hurt? We'll see. I don't know. People that listen to Patreon is like, who's getting hurt? Why are they getting hurt? That's not anything what we heard on the show.
Patreon.
That doesn't sound like a good prank at all.
No, it doesn't. Patreon.com/HMP.
Floating toilet paper, terrible idea.
Nobody's getting hurt, or are they? Patreon.com/HMP. And if you can't do that, at least go over to the iTunes and give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we'd really appreciate that. Thank you to all of you guys. Like I said, this week we're covering Jingle All The Way. Can I tell you something? As a millennial here, elder millennial, just on the cusp of everything, this is a movie that a lot of people my age thoroughly enjoy and love.
Yes, it is.
But surprisingly, this was my first viewing for this movie ever, despite having, seen it memed all to hell and back,
Wow.
For years and years. For whatever reason, I never saw Jingle All The Way until today, quite frankly.
I never saw it before watching it for this recording either.
Wow.
Nor had I.
I mean, it's a Power Ranger and Sinbad. There was nothing that appealed to me in 1996.
But so I was shocked. I knew what I was in for, but not quite to this particular level, and we'll get into all that. But first, let's go ahead and just do the IMDb plot line for Jingle All The Way, because as we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. A father vows to get his son a Turbo Man action figure for Christmas. However, every store is sold out, and he must travel all over town and compete with everybody in order to find one. Nice and bland, IMDb.
Nailed it.
Beautiful.
Actually, they nailed that one.
It is true what happened, but it's not told to you in a fanciful way, I don't think.
It is IMDb. I mean, what do you want?
That's true. This is written by Randy Kornfeld. You'd think that this would end his career, but you'd be wrong. No, he'd go on to write Cinematic Darling and David Arquette's vehicle, Eight-Legged Freaks, and of course...
No. He only has a story by credit on Eight-Legged Freaks. He didn't write it.
Oh, poor guy.
Oh, man.
But he, and he also has a little credit on Jingle All The Way, too, with Larry the Cable Guy. Bet you feel like you're bad now, huh? He kept on going. This is directed by Brian Lennant, sure. Levant. Maybe I just didn't put. Is there a V in there that I didn't put in, or maybe
there's a V?
There's a V in there. Yes.
I just didn't put that in there. That's why I didn't read it. He did a new Leave It to Beaver show. That was a thing, I guess. A couple episodes of Charles in Charge. Problem Child 2. Not good enough for you? Okay. How about he directed Beethoven? The Flintstones, the one with Rosie O'Donnell. That's right. He also did Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas. I bet you feel stupid now, don't you? Well, he also directed Snow Dogs and The Spy Next Door. So he's worked with Jackie Chan and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I couldn't tell you which one of those I'd be more excited to work with.
We all know it would be Jennifer Love Hewitt.
This is true. But let me sell everybody on this Christmas classic that Sean's going to be going over for us scene by scene here. But I want to sell everybody because this sucker's got everything. It's 1996, and if you don't want to go back to 1996, I think something might be wrong with you. Why? Because we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, the biggest action star of all time, being paid 20 million bones for this movie. And while he's at the same time in his career, John Cena ain't taking home no $20 million. Ain't no way, no how. We got Sinbad, need I say more? Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman. We also got Miss Tom Hanks getting it done. Booger from the Revenge of the Nerds. We got the forgotten Belushi brother, Martin Mull. Who does Martin Mull owe money to, I wonder? Not to be confused with Richard Mull, who's also in this film.
The two of them should never be in the same movie.
R.I.P. Bull. We got the giant from WWF or E or WCW. He's been in all of them, you know. We got Mickey from Seinfeld. Chris Parnell in a cameo that makes you wonder, how the hell old is Chris Parnell? By the way, as of this recording, he's 56. Who'd have thought that one? Vern Troyer plays an uncredited role. Guess what? It's not Arnold's stunt double. We get Jake Lloyd just before it happened. Plenty to talk about that, later. We've also got the superhero toy everybody wants. Everyone also wants Phil Hartman's packing. He's also, we got shelf smashing, people stumping, old lady choking, counterfeiting, Mo Collins, voice changing, flying jetpack, the true meaning of Christmas, which of course is lying to your wife and child, the cornerstone of any good Christmas movie. This movie's got everything.
Yes, it does.
Sean, you'd never seen this before, you said?
I had never seen it. You know, by the time this movie came out, I was already a working comic. So this was, everything this movie was about was antithetical to what I was trying to do. And so I irrationally hated everything about this movie. And so when I watched it this week, now I have good reason to hate this movie. Instead of just hating it from afar.
Now I hate with the proper, hate as is required by law, not just feelings. This is feelings that are backed up by actual, facts and knowledge now.
Yeah, and if I could let everybody behind the curtain, usually when I do these scene by scene breakdowns, a really long one is usually about 6 pages long, right? Like the one that we did of the message from space.
Mm-hmm.
That was 6 pages, and that was a really long episode. I had so many notes, writing down notes for Jingle All the Way. We are on 9 pages for this bad boy, so it is going to be a very long episode, everybody. No. I hope that if you get bored by this, you just pause it and come back later instead of just I you know what, I listen to that when I'm done.
Now, I want to say, I think maybe one of the reasons that we might have, as people that were at least a little older when this was out, was we had Last Action Hero, which had just been a colossal bomb at the box office and everything. And this, I think, felt to people like we were probably getting more of the same, I think.
There was
Did this
also
do well at the box office?
I don't think so.
Yes.
Did it?
No, it did.
Wow.
It did well. I mean, not so well that they made a sequel, but it did do well enough, especially over time, especially that it's a Christmas movie that millennials love.
Yeah.
Like, all of these things add up. A Christmas Story, when it came out in the movie theater, was a massive bomb, but now it's considered one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made.
Yeah. It's on the
just like the Wikipedia rundown on the box office, just box office alone, against a budget of $75 million, it did 129.8. So it's that real break even kind of.
Yeah. So do you guys want to start?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. So we start with the old 20th Century Fox logo, which is still my favorite because I'm a middle-aged white who likes Star Wars. We're immediately dropped into the action of a Power Ranger-style television show, except the special effects, acting, and script is better. Hey. It's Turbo Man, where Harvey Korman is the president, Richard Mall is the villain. And if at the time that the movie came out, would you guys have watched the Turbo Man show? Because I would not have.
No, it is totally Power Rangers. I mean, come on. I think even Chris Columbus said he was bummed out when he couldn't get Power Rangers for his kid, and that was part of the idea for this.
Oh.
Yeah, I was, too old for it, but I was watching Power Rangers and stuff at this time. So like I probably would have watched this crappy show too. Just maybe not in as much as Jake Lloyd is punching the sky and stuff, saying Kia and whatnot. But I'm not doing that. But I'm watching, just going like, hey, robots are fighting big monsters. That's cool.
We learned pretty quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
I was going to say that I think what was missing here was I think they should have leaned into the fact that it was just repurposed foreign programming, and they didn't do that at all.
Yeah, but you got to get some names and stuff in there, and
Well, that's the thing. It's like, somehow there ends up being a look behind the curtain that the people that are in the parade are just there. They're not the actual TV people or something. And that would explain how Arnold Schwarzenegger slides in so easily.
We learned pretty quickly that Turbo Man is being watched by a pre-Anakin Skywalker Jake Lloyd, hopefully in a role that didn't make creeps scream at him on the internet. We learned that baby Vader is worried his dad is going to miss his karate tournament because he, quote, misses everything, end quote. Tom Hanks's wife plays baby Vader's mom, and she assures him that he'll be there, even though, if you're paying attention to her eyes, she doesn't believe it. Mm-mm. We cut to a holiday party that's attended by at least 50 people at a mattress company showroom. And this is a movie that was shot in the 90s because every single person at this party is white. For some reason, people have formed a conga line, even though it's a daytime office Christmas party. I want to see a movie about the people who attended this party because it had to be mandatory attendance. And because Arnold is the worst boss ever, they have to pretend to have fun or they're fired. Everyone's scared. It's like a 1984 scenario that takes place in a mattress store. I would totally watch that. I would watch that movie way more than I would watch this movie. It's almost the biggest mattress showroom I've seen in my life, and I don't know if you've ever been in an actual mattress showroom, but they are sad. There's 3 people working, and by working, I mean looking at their phones, and you can tell no customers have been in the store all day, even though it's 3:00 in the afternoon.
Laundering money. That's what all those places are.
It's gotta be, right? How are they still in business? No one is there ever.
Everyone is always like today, everyone's getting their beds delivered in a box and stuff.
Yes.
And these people are just they're sitting out there in a strip mall right beside an Arby's, and we're supposed to believe that people are going in there and buying stuff enough to afford their rent for that place every month. Hey, I don't buy it.
There's a place here with prime real estate that sells Oriental rugs. And Huntington can't be buying that many Oriental rugs.
We're lousy with just bare floors over here.
And finally, we meet baby Vader's dad, the guy whose name is over the title of the movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the most average everyman 90s Hollywood had to offer. His character's name is Howard, but no one cares, and he's a workaholic. And he's a workaholic because he's on the phone closing a big mattress deal as everyone's enjoying the Christmas party.
And it's only this is just past the mid-90s, or it's right at the mid-90s, but there's still enough 80s in Hollywood that they think you can have the hero of your movie be a terrible dad all year, commit a bunch of crimes on Christmas Eve, and redeem himself.
Oh, we will get there.
But at the same time, I love that this is also my favorite. I think this is the inspiration for The Room.
Oh, wow.
Because he's always going, "You're my number one customer. Thank you. Goodbye." To everyone. I'm just like I almost expected him to pet a cat.
Hi, doggy.
Good stuff.
He's selling 30 mattresses at one time on this phone call. Who needs 30 mattresses? Is it a hotel or maybe a secret orgy house? No one can say. Also, real question for you guys. Do you think there's someone on the other end of the phone during the "you're my number one customer" montage or that's feeding Schwarzenegger his lines to react to? Or do you think he's just full on freeballing this scene?
Schwarzenegger's like, "Listen, I got to have somebody on the other end of this line talking back to me. Otherwise, I am not engaged in the scene. And if I'm not engaged in this, where's your $20 million going?"
I like the idea that he's just randomly calling strangers and saying these things to them, and they're confused. Who is this Austrian man sending me 30 mattresses? Please don't do that.
That's the worst Arnold Schwarzenegger impression I've ever heard. Bye.
Like, this is a Taco Bell. Why are you calling here? What is this? He's just dialing random numbers.
So Arnold gets a call from Mrs. Tom Hanks. She's asking where he is. Arnold assures her that he'll meet them at the karate tournament, and he rushes out the door. We cut to Arnold in his 1996 Chevy Suburban, stuck in traffic. And if you look around in the background of this scene, you see how insanely decorated the trees are along the road. It would take the full output of the Hoover Dam to keep them all illuminated. We cut to a gymnasium, and in case we forget it's Christmas, there's a Christmas tree fully dressed in the gym with Christmas lights wrapped around the backboard of the basketball hoop.
Nice.
And the karate instructor is wearing a Christmas Santa hat.
Okay, so I want to just say something here. Of
Mhm.
course, it's a bad father for not making it to the blue belt trials.
Purple.
But who the heck has their purple belt trials on Christmas Eve? Like, I'm going to say, yeah, it's kind of bad on the dad, but it's really bad on the sensei.
Well, to be
Well,
fair,
it's the
that's
eve
Christmas
of
Adam.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
eve
whatever.
of Christmas Eve.
Eve.
But you are not wrong. We watch as kids are walking out in straight lines, and in the crowd, cheering the kids on is this movie's most glorious weapon, Phil Hartman. And in one sentence, he's already stolen the movie. Because in an exchange that lasts a total of 3 lines, we know Phil Hartman's character is way too into Christmas and way too into being a father, and is also attempting to have sex with the mothers of at least half of these kids' moms. And we're not even out of the opening credits yet.
The credits go on for so long. This
Yes.
is exposition dump city, and I kind of love it in a way. Because they're just getting it all out on Front Street. They're just like, here are these characters. Here's what they believe. Here's all their stuff. You are not going to be confused by this movie because we are doing all this table setting right here, right now. And you haven't even got to directed by Joe Schmo yet.
This is back in the days when a movie had one job to do, and that was to be efficient.
Yeah. Get us to the
There
end.
were no 3-hour movies back then.
Well, this one
Unless
feels
we're
like that
Gandhi.
one, though.
Malcolm X is 3 hours long.
Malcolm X is no Jingle All the Way.
That's true.
Amen.
That's true. I have watched Malcolm X more than once. We cut back to Arnold stuck in traffic, and he decides to do something that when it happens around me in real life, nothing makes me more angry than what Arnold does in this scene, which he decides to drive in the breakdown lane because, like many, many citizens of Atlanta, he thinks having to sit in traffic is for poor people.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden he gets pulled over by a motorcycle cop that makes every single driver that Arnold drove past very, very happy, I am sure. And I'm sure more than a few people hummed a few bars of Radiohead's Karma Police when he got pulled over too. Baby Vader is making frowny face that his dad isn't there for his karate class. And when Arnold finally shows up to the gym, he's too late. Sad piano music plays as Arnold runs down the halls of a school, and the hallways are so overly dressed for Christmas that it's like a school for manic depressives who believe Christmas is the only thing that will keep them alive, so we must dress every square inch of this hallway.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if I was a good time to interject or
man.
not. Do they ever establish the geography? Like, what are we in Chicago?
Minnesota.
We are in Minnesota, and we will get to that.
Okay, because I got some questions. Keep going.
Minneapolis, St. Paul. Arnold finally gets to the gym, and the only person there is the janitor from the Smells Like Teen Spirit video. I know that reference is over 30 years old. I don't care. I'm going to make it anyway. We cut to an exterior of the cul-de-sac that Arnold and his family live on, and wouldn't you know it, there's not a square inch of the entire neighborhood that isn't decorated with Christmas lights. Are we spotting a trend here? Arnold pulls into his driveway, and thankfully, the show-stealing best part of the movie, Phil Hartman, is on the roof of his house putting up Christmas lights. And this might be the creepiest scene in the entire movie for me. Having someone put up Christmas lights on your house against your will, it's weird, right?
I just thought
It's
you looked
very
all. I thought your house looked sad and lonely and everything. So I just decided, and to not only meet him in the process, but in the process where he's literally standing on a lower portion of your roof.
To be honest,
it feels like a violation.
Yeah.
In this day and age, it would be a certain type of person doing it to the house of someone whose religion is not one that incorporates Christmas. Like in this day and age, it would be like doing it to a Jewish person, Islamic person, or something like
Somebody's peeking in the window at a daughter or something like that,
that. Oh yeah.
Got a bunch of Jews in this house, and I still decorate for Christmas. Anyway. So yeah, so it's clear that Arnold doesn't like Phil. And if I were Arnold, I wouldn't like Phil Hartman either, because he's stealing the movie from me. The mood is even worse inside the house because Arnold's wife is disappointed, and baby Vader gets so mad at Arnold that he runs upstairs to his room that boasts a banging Captain America mural and the most amazing Marvel bed sheets I've ever seen in my life. Incredible.
These are the moments where you want to choke this child, all right? This is where things start out and you're like, this kid's a piece of garbage. I hate his guts. Not only is he a little snot nose, he's like... Could you imagine, like, let's take Bruce. Bruce was, the least amongst us. When you were a child, Bruce, how would you kill to have this child's room?
I mean, kill would be not a problem. Just line him up. I'll chop him down.
It takes 15 minutes for him to get from the living room to his bedroom. This house is gigantic. These people got money, son.
Here's the thing. Here's a filthy, rich, spoiled kid who doesn't get to see his dad. I was in a trailer park and didn't get to see my dad. So eat some buttholes there, buddy.
Yeah, he didn't have no Captain America, no Jack Kirby Captain America to keep him, warm at night.
Yeah.
Was your dad at your purple belt ceremony?
Man, I couldn't even afford a belt. I was tying my pants up with an extension cord.
He had the orange extension cord belt. That was his belt, boy. He whooped some butt with that one.
I kicked a lot of purple belts' butt, I'll tell you that right now. I was angry enough to lift a car.
I know where you're getting that from.
Yes,
turns out,
pay attention and love you, Sean.
It turns out, baby Vader is pissed that his father didn't come to his purple belt ceremony. Which, if this was a movie that in any way dealt with real life, the kid would have been totally fine with his dad missing. But our suspension of disbelief is stretched to its tensile strength edges, and Arnold learns that the only way he can ever make it up to his son is if he gets a Turbo Man action figure for Christmas. He says this to Arnold the day before Christmas Eve. In one very hard to watch scene, we have both our plot device and our call to action.
Oh, let's talk about how hard the scene is to watch, because it is bad.
I want to comment on something you said there, Sean. You said in real life he would not have been disappointed that his dad wasn't there. But weren't you disappointed when your dad missed a basketball game?
It was the opposite. I was so glad he wasn't there.
I pay attention, Sean, because I love you.
I love you too, buddy.
But this...
Now, go ahead.
No, I don't.
No. That's
I wish I remember what I was saying, but I had lost it the second I started saying
when
words.
do we get to the point where the rich white guy gets to just repeatedly steal from the blue collar black guy? I want to get there.
Well, we're getting there. Trust me.
But no, this okay. So I love how many single shots are in this movie. That's something that is all over the place, of like clearly stuff where Arnold did not want to be with people, that you could absolutely tell. And then the other like many one shots and stuff are of Jake Lloyd clearly having trouble with his lines. Or this is the take that we got that had all of the stuff in it. And
I think there's probably more of the Arnold bad takes than there are of the kid. And the reason why I think that is because the kid kept working, even though he isn't very good in this movie, but just because you're a bad actor doesn't mean you're not going to get a job in Hollywood. And so I think as long as he knew his lines enough, that's what got him more
and
work.
It's funny because like George Lucas even admitted, when you go back and look some of those special features from way back when, he even admits, he's like, I don't think that he was necessarily the best actor, because they had like two kids up and he was one of them. He's like, I don't know that he's the better actor of the two, but he's like, there's just something about him. And I think it may be more that like, hey, he can do his lines or whatever.
Yeah, he can just burn through his lines.
So like maybe that was it. I mean, I don't know, because boy, you watch this and you're like, ugh. I mean, I love my nephew. He's about 8 years old, so about the same sort of age. And I love the kid, but he ain't no actor. You know, you throw him in something and he would be, I would figure, probably about this good.
I have been around tons of children's theater, and most kids can deliver lines about as good as Jake Lloyd.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
competent, but it's like there's like it's missing the extra thing.
I think he had parents that were just willing to make him work inhumane hours or something, and that's how he got work.
They saw a cute kid in a possible Cully Culkin cash cow, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, if you're a longtime listener of the show, you might remember that one of my most hated tropes in movies and television is when we're in a boy's bedroom. And that prop that I hate the most is a baseball glove in a boy's room. You know, you're watching a by the numbers, no one on the decorating team cares type of movie when you see a baseball glove in a child's room. And I'll let you guess if there's a baseball glove in baby Vader's bedroom.
There's 3.
We then cut to Arnold's bedroom, and both he and Tom Hanks' wife are getting ready for bed as Arnold starts the second of many lies to Tom Hanks' wife about already purchasing the Turbo Man doll for Christmas. I noticed that Arnold is wearing an Atlanta Olympics 1996 t-shirt,
Right?
which made me look up where this movie is supposed to take place. And it was shot in the Twin Cities, which I was surprised by because this entire movie looks like it was shot on a back lot.
Well, that's the only place where they could get snow in July when they were shooting it.
As both Arnold and Tom Hanks' wife go to bed, it made me worry for Tom Hanks' wife because this was still during a time when Arnold was allegedly known as being a bit handsy.
He was Conan the Grope Barian.
Imagine being creeped on by Arnold at work, and then you have to go home and tell David S. Pumpkins what happened. We cut to the next morning. Baby Vader is pouring Turbo Man cereal, wearing a Turbo Man t-shirt. And I was already in my 20s when this movie came out, so I don't remember. Was there a ton of Turbo Man merch you could buy that back then?
There was some of it, and some of it you can still buy. Like there's like I think like the big Turbo Man doll goes for like $150 or something like that.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
As a kid, let's be honest. Now, as an adult, you like the big doll. You like the oversized collectible. It's cool. But as a kid, you really kind of wanted the smaller figure, right? Like the big figure was
the
lame
big ones
you weren't going to get a whole line.
That was and it was also like, oh, that's it was more of the girl's toy, to be quite frank. It's still that, you know, it's a bigger Barbie sized toy. It's like I'm not playing with Barbies, I'm playing with G.I. Joes. You know, so
when I was a kid, I had the big, for some reason, for Christmas, I got the big Stormtrooper and the big C-3PO. But I didn't get any of the other ones. So
which is a weird pair to have.
It is very weird, but it's not like my mom followed Star
They're
Wars.
both robots. What do you want?
Yeah, she's like they both look like space guys. The space guys can fight each other, I guess.
This is Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I got the big Spock and the big Chewbacca as a gift set.
And that's basically what it would have been, right? So Arnold is trying to slink off like a deceptive, conniving liar, saying he has to go to work on Christmas Eve, and he rightfully catches hell from both Tom Hanks' wife and baby Vader. And this is where we learn about the holiday wintertainment parade, something that they go to every single year, and Turbo Man's going to be there. But don't worry. I'm sure this will not come up later, so we can just forget about it and move on with our lives.
This is why I was asking if it was at least in Chicago, because if Turbo Man is the hottest toy of the year, the toy nobody can get, and it's got a TV show and they have the actual Turbo Man actor scheduled, it's going to be in New York or LA, right? Maybe Chicago, never St. Paul.
Well, we're about to get to the reason why they shot this where they shot it and why it's set there.
Okay.
So Arnold goes outside, and just in time, because Phil Hartman has re-entered the movie. This time he's walking around with a reindeer because it's also that kind of movie. Here's another unasked for tip, everybody. If the TV show or movie you're watching has an exotic animal in it because it's a weird random thing to throw in there, you're watching a movie written by someone who is completely bankrupt of ideas. If a character has a duck or a snake or a reindeer, and it's not what the movie is about, then douse your campfire. It's time to go home. The only exception to this rule is a monkey, because monkeys are hilarious. We learn that Phil Hartman already bought a Turbo Man for his overweight son months ago. They're impossible to get now. Good on this movie for casting a chubby kid.
I
No way
love
they
the
do
fat
that
kid.
these days.
Or if he would, he'd just be
Little
only
do we
slightly
know.
fat.
Little do we know that was a young Horatio Sands.
Man, Horatio Sands was probably my age when
Yeah,
when this
yeah.
movie came out.
I just
We
couldn't
then
think of anybody else.
We then cut to an outdoor walking mall where yet again there's so much Christmas decoration. It's like the movie is attempting to celebrate 20 years of Christmas in an afternoon. And even the movie theater marquee claims it's playing Miracle on 34th Street, which is a movie that if you force your kids to sit through when they're little, you should be tried for war crimes.
That movie is so bad.
Oh, it's so slow. And
it would get so much like I don't know if rhetoric is the right word, but as a kid, you would think Miracle on 34th Street is something I'm going to love because it's about Christmas and Santa, and it must be like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Oh my goodness, it is not.
It's got a man what kind of look like Santa Claus. Okay.
And we focus on a boutique toy store where rich people shop, and it's an absolute mob scene. Arnold cuts his way to the front of the line, asking why the shop isn't opened yet. And this is the very moment that I understand that Arnold's character isn't just a good person with bad tendencies. He may be the worst person in the world, always lying to his family. He has literally no friends. He's always cutting in front of people. And when he says he's going to do something, he never pulls through. Arnold gets pushed to the back of the line, and we meet Sinbad for the first time. And he plays a mailman, but he doesn't work for the United States Postal Service. So I guess he's a freelance mailman. How does that work? No idea.
Sign me up.
I'll just show up to those little boxes right there. I kind of jimmy my way in a little bit, and then I get some stuff, and I decide on where that goes.
I've always put Sinbad and Drew Carey in the same camp as far as comedians go. I'm sure people think they're funny. I've just never been one of those people. And this first scene with Sinbad is my exhibit one.
Did you
go ahead.
Did you happen to read who the first choice was for Sinbad's character?
No, I don't know.
Well, it's Christopher Columbus, who made Home Alone, and
wow.
Joe Pesci. Well, I mean, Christopher Columbus is the producer, not the director, but he wanted Joe Pesci. Could you imagine Joe Pesci going head to head with Arnold Schwarzenegger in some of those physical comedy scenes?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the joke of it, right? Is that they're going to twins it, where he's like looking up at him, pointing at him, and being like a little dog
You're a giant thing. Dog. But the best part is that Sinbad is not a tiny man.
No.
Well, that's why he got cast. He's a former NCAA athlete, so I guess his athletic physique hangs with Arnold's.
Well, but that's the thing though. Like, and the funny thing is about like Arnold and a couple of these other, like big guys that we all just go like, oh, they're like 1 billion feet tall, Paul Bunyan types in a way. They've kind of come up with like a reputation. Like Arnold's big, but he's not like that big.
I mean, the famous picture of Arnold next to Wilt Chamberlain, kind of, there's like Wilt Chamberlain and Andre the Giant with Arnold in between them, and it really shows how he's maybe 6'1" at best.
Yeah, he's 6 foot tall.
And it's like, I mean, when I've come across Lou Ferrigno in person a couple times there at Dragon Con, where you just kind of, he's like staying on the same floor and everything, and like you'd walk past him, he's like, oh, he ain't that big, he's super lean and muscular and everything, but he's like, from a physical standpoint, he's not gigantic.
He's no Paul White.
Yeah,
he's no Paul White. But I can't wait till we get to that.
Exactly, we'll get there.
So Sinbad starts talking about toy cartels and toys are a scam. And while looking into this movie, you learn that Sinbad improv'd a lot of his lines. And even though the scene is 2 minutes long, I watched this movie during the middle of the week, and it feels like this scene is still running. Sinbad, also a firm believer in louder is funnier.
Mm-hmm.
The toy store finally opens and people are ripping toys off the shelves and pushing each other over. And it turns out the Turbo Man is sold out. Arnold asks an 11-year-old Chris Parnell if they have any Turbo Man in the back. and Chris Parnell puts in the second best performance of the entire movie in a scene that lasts 30 seconds long.
Is
It
that
turns
Dr.
out
Spaceman, Chris Parnell?
it is. It's
Dr.
Dr.
Spaceman.
Spaceman. Yeah. Yeah. It turns out that Turbo Man is sold out everywhere and impossible to get, like we've already heard 3 times in this movie.
I love just I mean, come on, who else can really say that they've had this? The laugh in the face that Chris Parnell does to Schwarzenegger is just like, it's so deliciously great because he's like, you moron, just
He's so
right in his face.
To me, Chris Parnell is one of the most versatile comedians in the world. He can do anything.
That's the difference between somebody who's paid hourly and someone who works on commission.
He, he can play dumb great. He can play stuck-up snob great. He can play the funny guy. He can play the dumb guy.
Yeah.
He's in that rap video, Lazy Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's in Lazy Sunday. And he's great in that.
He's one of those dudes.
He can just be in everything, and he always elevates it. He's been on Archer for the last 15 years.
Oh,
I mean, he can do everything. So it turns out that Turbo Man is sold out everywhere and impossible to get, like we've heard 3 times before. Everyone in the store starts laughing at Arnold and Sinbad. Arnold threatens Chris Parnell with bodily harm, which makes Chris Parnell tell Arnold that some lady with a fur coat just took the last one she had on layaway. Sinbad overhears this and hits Arnold in the head with his mailbag, knocking Arnold to the ground, putting Arnold into concussion protocol. Sinbad begins chasing after the lady. Arnold uses a remote control car and trips Sinbad, who falls deftly onto his back, making it so he has sciatica, and I'm not even sure if that's how that works. Arnold sees the lady driving away, and he begins foot chasing her as she's in her car. And it seems like the lady is kind of teasing Arnold because she's driving just slow enough, and the Turbo Man action figure seems to be featured in her hatchback window.
I don't know about you guys, but if I buy an expensive item or something, I feel like if I buy a new iPad, I'm not sitting it up on the dashboard, or
it's
nothing.
It's on display.
Yeah, it's like check it out.
It's a form of efficient storytelling.
She gets scared because she sees a large Austrian man chasing her down the road, and she barely escapes with her life. We then cut to a second montage, even though we're only 21 minutes into the movie, and Arnold is looking everywhere for a Turbo Man action figure. At this point, you have to figure that Arnold's probably been out of the house for 6 hours, and Arnold's losing his mind when he tears apart a cardboard display of Turbo Man because his character in this movie is the worst person in the world.
Wow.
It's about this point in the movie when I'm wondering, does Mrs. Tom Hanks not have a credit card? Does Mrs. Tom Hanks not have access to the bank account? Like, she is basically an indentured servant, because in any real world scenario, mom bought this thing in October.
Of course.
No, she knows her husband is a reliable man. Oh, wait, He's had nothing but unreliable things. And of course, you look at him for the biggest list, the gift on the list, and you go like, well, you had that. You should know. Like, trust me, ladies know their husbands a lot better than this woman does.
And yes. I don't care how much the kid wants a Turbo Man. A kid like this gets one present on Christmas morning. He's throwing a little bit of a tantrum. This is the kind of family that has like so many gifts that they need 2 trees and stuff.
I feel like he's like that kid that the Harry Potter's cousin or whatever, who's just like screaming that he only got 30 gifts this year.
Yes, exactly. Oh, by the way, this is a good time to bring up that this movie has the worst Christmas soundtrack ever. It's the worst Christmas music playing throughout the movie. You have the cool rock and roll versions of Christmas classics, but we are saved from the worst Christmas song ever made. There is no Bruce Springsteen's Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
This is a movie.
Thank you.
This is a movie that could have used Christmas in Hollis, but they didn't want to pay for it.
No, and you know that they wanted it, and they didn't have the money for the rights. Like they spent all their money on Arnold or something,
Yeah.
because there is that scene when they're in the where we'll get to it, but there's the warehouse scene that where it's like the illegal toy making thing that they wanted to play that there, and they just didn't do it.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger's salary was like 30% of the budget.
Yeah.
And it made me think about a famous quote from Stanley Kubrick talking about the guy from the Pink Panther, Peter Sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, look, when you get Peter Sellers, it's like getting 3 actors for the price of 6.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you get half an actor for the price of 6.
What are you talking about? That's a thespian.
How weird is him crying? Him crying scene. It is so weird. It's so off-putting. Where he, it is.
It's not nearly as off-putting as the color of his hair. Talk about unnatural. Holy smokes!
Do you think he's ever cried since he escaped the father that undoubtedly beat him when he was a kid? Like, I don't think he's ever cried since he came to the U.S.
He probably cried when his wife took half of his money,
or the reason why his wife left, like that the world found out. It's like that maid.
Yeah,
that maid, really?
Sure.
See, I never saw The Maid, but in my mind, it's like Consuela from Family Guy.
You're not wrong. That's exactly what she looks like.
That is
son.
What it is. Yes,
that's exactly what she looks like.
Yes, it looks like Consuela was based on. It looks like Consuela is based on Arnold Schwarzenegger's actual maid.
Yeah,
yes,
for real. It's nuts.
Yes. We then cut to Tom Hanks' wife making Christmas cookies in the kitchen. Just in case you forgot, this movie takes place during Christmas.
Hello.
When Phil Hartman shows up and begins creeping on her like he was some sort of straight Kevin Spacey, allegedly.
Oh my God. Like, okay. This is like, if you were still, or if you were Schwarzenegger here, how are you just not punching this man out on every possible, oh my God.
What is this movie trying to do? You take clearly your most charismatic and talented performer, and you put him in the role of saying any man who cares about his family and the holidays is a bad guy and he's only after one thing. Like, is Christopher Columbus producing this really trying to convince his wife that he's a good guy for hating Christmas?
I think that this is the kind of movie where there is no one thing to it, like you're supposed to be able to tell people what the one thing your movie is about is, and this movie is not that movie.
It's about Arnold Schwarzenegger is what it's about.
Yes.
I feel like Chris Columbus's life is dedicated to convincing his wife, like, I might be a bad dad, but I never left one of our kids at home alone on Christmas. I might be a bad dad, but I never had to commit crimes to get a power doll.
Or put your kid underneath a set of stairs and everything like that. You know what? Yeah. It's starting to add up here, Chris.
His whole thing is trying to convince his wife, I'm a bad dad, but I could be worse.
Yeah. So Arnold calls the house. Phil Hartman answers the phone, and Hartman begins using cookies as a euphemism for sex.
Oh my Lord! It's more than he's practically he's just Harry Met Sally over here.
It is pretty great. Just the overwhelming presence that Phil Hartman brings to this role. I don't think Phil Hartman is great in everything he does, but
I can see Phil Hartman wanting to undercut Arnold Schwarzenegger with his wife, but I can't see Phil Hartman wanting to taunt the very, very large man about doing that.
As long as it's over the phone, it's fine.
As long as he's got that reindeer to protect him.
So Arnold hangs up the phone and meets up again with everyone's favorite freelance mailman, Sinbad. Sinbad attempts to convince Arnold that they should be working as a team, but since Arnold's character is the worst person on earth, Arnold says no. They both overhear that there's going to be a late delivery of Turbo Man to another store, and as Arnold's about to drive away, he backs over the same motorcycle cop's motorcycle from the beginning of the movie, and I didn't bring it up before, But that cop is played by veteran actor Robert Conrad, who's best known for the TV series Wild Wild West. And if you know any really old people, they will tell you how great the Wild Wild West TV series was, but they're wrong. It's fine. It's just okay. Arnold gets another ticket. Yes, Will Smith's movie is awful and should be forgotten completely. But that TV show, listening to old people talk about how Will Smith ruined the Wild Wild West, get out of here. When's the last time you watched that show? There's a reason why it's not on constant loop on television. Yes, you remember the little person who's the bad guy. You don't remember the 10 other episodes of that season where it's just Jim being wacky.
You do what he do, you know?
We then find out why they shot this movie in... Oh, sorry. Nope. Screwed that up. Arnold gets another ticket. Right. Arnold gets another ticket. We then find out why they shot this movie in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's because we're going to the Mall of America. Arnold gets to the toy store.
I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm. Arnold gets to the toy store, and there's a lottery system in place. If your number is picked, you get a Turbo Man. It's sort of like the NBA draft, except more rigged. Got him. Got him.
This is a ridiculous, how these employees will have to be fired, I believe, because they at one point they all just go, well, we're throwing these balls up into the air. No way that can go wrong.
That's almost as bad as the hold your Wii for a Wii promotion.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Let's have people stomp on other people and they're bouncy balls, no less, super balls with that, which is odd choice.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be like ball pit balls, and they weren't.
No, they're super balls.
Or ping pong balls, something. No, super balls. Because that makes sense.
The movie also keeps...
Hold on. I like how the little girl, though, who gets it up in the ball pit and everything, puts it in her mouth. That's her go-to. She's like, give me that little thing. And she just goes, bloop. I'm like, why is that your instinct to put it in your mouth?
Because she's a kid. That's what kids do.
That kid should have been old enough not to do that.
You're right. Actually, that kid was too old to do that. Why are you still doing that?
A 2-year-old 5. That kid was 5.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger's character here, this is 1996, and you think that's not that long ago, but it was, because you don't have grown men groping children anymore.
Well, we are getting there in a minute. Trust me on that one. So the movie keeps bringing up that there's plenty of Turbo Man's tiger sidekick Booster. And anytime his name is even mentioned, for some reason, everyone gets incredibly angry and starts booing every single time. What did Booster do that's making everyone so angry?
I love how everyone hates Booster. There's a point where I don't remember if it's a toy or whatever, but all of a sudden the people start ganging up and beating the crap out of Booster stuff.
Every time. Every time.
It's so good.
Here's the funny thing. When I read the cast list, he's not listed as Booster. It's Curtis Armstrong as chain smoking Booster, which I love that.
Then there's a crazy mix-up. Lottery balls get thrown up in the air, and anarchy wins. Now, for the second time in the movie, people are knocking over toy displays, fighting each other, and it's stupid because the only time, as we've learned, the only time people actually fist fight for goods is when there's a pandemic and there's a toilet paper and paper towel shortage. Sinbad pepper sprays Arnold in the face, tries to steal his bouncy ball, but ends up losing it. And Arnold's stuntman runs around for a few minutes chasing after the lottery ball through the Mall of America. But there is some good news, because in this sequence, the Russian dance from the Nutcracker is playing.
Yeah.
And not the Brian Setzer version of the Russian dance, the actual Russian dance from Nutcracker. And the bouncing lottery ball ends up in the hands of a little kid. And in another joke that couldn't be made today, specifically in a children's movie, Arnold is mistaken for a pedo from a bunch of mothers at the mall, and they begin hitting him with their purses. It really was a better time back then, wasn't it? When you could make a simple child molestation joke in your big budget family comedy and no one thought twice about it.
The best part is how he just he gets to the point where he just looks at the crowd and goes, I'm not the pedophile. And you're just like, what is this movie right now?
Oh, 1996, we miss you.
He's just screaming out like, listen, I'm not a pedophile, people. I'm just a guy trying to get a bouncy ball out of this little girl. Like, what in the heck is going on here? Which, by the way, the most hilarious part is it's not like this ball ensures that you got one. This is only the chance for them to draw the ball. Come on.
Yeah. So kid gets away, and Arnold runs into a creepy Jim Belushi, which is to say just regular Jim Belushi. And he's dressed like Santa, and Mickey from Seinfeld is also there playing an elf. And Jim Belushi tells Arnold he's got a Turbo Man doll, but they got to drive to a seedy warehouse on the bad side of town. Now, there's two things about this warehouse. One, if you're trying to buy this warehouse today, it would cost you well over $1 million in Minneapolis. And two, it's filled with Santas, including Mini-Me and the Big Show. How do I know who the Big Show is? I honestly have no idea. But when he showed up, I went, hey, that's the Big Show. And then immediately thought, how do I know who the Big Show is? And here we are. Arnold has to fight his way through all these Santas, and in a moment that legitimately made me laugh, Big Show's about to punch Arnold in the face, but Arnold ducks. The Big Show ends up punching a little person dressed as Santa that's climbed onto Arnold's back. The little person takes the punch square in the face and flies to the other side of the warehouse.
That's awesome.
In a move that would make Robert Rodriguez go, oh, man, I wish I would have done that.
It legitimately made me laugh because I'm a simple man. But this is ruined by what's surrounding this one good joke. The Christmas-themed puns. At one point, there's a Santa holding candy cane-striped nunchucks.
Yes, and it had to be a white Santa ninja, too. They couldn't even get like an actual martial artist.
Did we see a black Santa at all? Now that I think about it,
there are some because I was looking around.
Okay, because I didn't even think about it until just now, but I was just like, I don't specifically remember seeing. You said there is, so that's good.
There is one, one or two. And when they're putting the scene together, I'm wondering if the makers of the film were falling all over themselves thinking the scene is funny, or because there's such a lack of heart and creativity that was put into this, that maybe everyone was blank-faced when you're just outside a camera view shooting this thing, where everyone's just dead-faced.
I'd like to think that.
I think that's what was happening. I really do. Cops show up and take down the entire illegal operation. Santa scatter, and Arnold barely escapes by being busted by grabbing a toy police badge. And it is honestly the most realistic thing that happens in this movie.
It kind of is, because at the same time too, because he's a big enough, broad enough guy and everything, you go, yeah, he probably is an undercover cop or something like that. It works.
Look at that guy. That guy's definitely on the beat.
For sure. As
he flees the scene, Arnold's Suburban runs out of gas and he pushes it to a small train car diner. And maybe a 1996 Arnold Schwarzenegger could push it that size Suburban. Maybe.
That thing's huge, though. Yeah, those things back then, those things weighed a gajillion tons.
And they got steel frames.
No way that steering's easy. That steering's got to be a turd.
The weight of that thing.
Even for somebody as buff as him, man, that'd be rough.
We cut to the neighborhood cul-de-sac, and Phil Hartman is passing out hot chocolate, and the kids are petting the reindeer. When Phil Hartman's fat son tells baby Vader that maybe his parents should get a divorce because Phil Hartman really stepped up his game once Phil's wife left him, Arnold calls and yells at his kid while on the phone. So, show me verbal abuse. Ding, ding, ding. In the diner, we get another Arnold Sinbad scene, and Arnold tells a story about how he built a clubhouse for his son. And honestly, I couldn't picture Arnold actually building a clubhouse in real life, no matter how hard I tried.
Nope.
Imagine a treehouse where he has to go up on a stepladder and do it.
Is it a kit that he bought it and then had it delivered to his home?
He's not sawing boards and stuff by himself. He's not ripping plywood.
I can't even see him reading the building instructions and the blueprints.
So you've decided to build a treehouse.
I couldn't imagine any of that. I could see him having a hammer in his belt, pretending that he was building a treehouse.
I'm the supervisor.
But I could not actually imagine Arnold actually building a house, like a clubhouse for his kid. I couldn't do it.
I can't picture him making a birdhouse, like holding a hammer and a nail and just kind of tink, tink, tink. I can't see it.
That's true. Then Sinbad tells Arnold a story about how he's a loser now because his dad didn't buy him what he wanted for Christmas when he was a kid. And immediately Arnold has a stress nightmare where he sees his son drinking liquor dressed like Sinbad. And we could have used more of these style visions, really.
Best scene in the movie, baby.
But I guess if they went too hard into it, that it would feel too much like a Christmas story, because a Christmas story does that a lot.
Yeah.
It's also the most believable baby Vader performance of the whole movie. They both hear over the radio at the diner that if you're the first caller, you'll win a Turbo Man, and hijinks ensues. What you're picturing in your head, that's what happens in this scene. And adding to the list of Arnold being the worst, when Sinbad says he thinks that he's a loser, when Sinbad says that Sinbad thinks he's a loser, Arnold says nothing. Not even a, no, you're not, things will get better. He says nothing. The entire sequence ends up with Sinbad not making one, but two separate bomb threats at a radio station. And in another moment, you would never see today in a children's movie, one of the bombs goes off.
Yikes! Yes, I forgot. Oh, it was crazy because it was supposed to be a fake threat, and
yes,
I don't know, clever or strange.
He says it's just happenstance that he happened to pick up a box that happened to have a bomb in it, and it just happened to blow up in a very Looney Tunes-esque kind of manner to where we're just stood on the face and your hair's in a fright wig.
I'm
that's
also
funny.
disturbed
That's what
with
I
how.
wrote down. I wrote down that he bought it from the Acme company. Clearly.
Also, have you ever seen anyone mail a Christmas gift that is just Christmas wrapping, like it's not in a proper box or anything? Like he's got a bag full of just wrapped gifts that I guess there's an address scratched on it somewhere.
Arnold gets back home and runs next door in an attempt to steal the Power Man doll from Phil Hartman's fat kid. And some carolers show up at the door, which is something that I think only happens in movies.
I have never seen this happen, or if they did, no one has ever dressed like. I want carolers that dress like this. Where are these people?
I've turned my hose on a few that dress just like that. It does happen.
That's the only way I will accept those carolers. If you're wearing
you've literally had carolers show up at your house, Bruce?
No, come on, man. Even if there were carolers in my town, they know to stay away from this place.
But I would have to have somebody within a costume, but because if you're wearing just like, a JanSport backpack, I don't need you coming over and singing "Oh Holy Night." That don't make my day any better. Wear some old, whatever the hell they're wearing in this thing. I don't even know what to call
some
it.
Elizabethan.
Yeah, some crap where it's just like we're like Tiny Tim's about to pop out any second in those little crutches.
That trope is so pervasive, though, that there have to be.
It has to have happened somewhere.
There have to have been carolers, but I've never really encountered it.
I see, and here's the thing. Now, I would figure if it would happen anywhere, it would be like a more New Englandy kind of thing.
I would too, because it feels very New Englandy to me, but that never happened.
I don't know. So weird. Maybe
it's like an old England thing that we just pretend like it happens here.
Or something that we've just done in television enough to where we're just like, that's for real though, right?
But I think this showed up in A Christmas Carol, and everybody was like, "Oh, let's take that."
Yeah, that's what they do.
You know what? I bet you're right.
It's probably it.
But now I've gone a wassailing a few times, but I've never gone caroling.
Oh, gotta get the wassail.
Arnold thinks better of stealing from this fat kid, and the reindeer chases him through the house, which makes Arnold set Phil Hartman's house on fire accidentally, and he kicks a flaming statue head out a plate glass window. And I know that these things might sound like it makes a great scene, and it's really funny, but it isn't.
No.
Phil Hartman and Tom Hanks' wife catch Arnold in Phil's house. Everyone gets frowny face, and Arnold punches a charging reindeer out cold. Phil Hartman says, "You can't bench press your way out of this one." And there's a pause. And I was really hoping Arnold would say, "Yes, I can." and immediately start powerlifting.
Well, at the same time, too, though, I'm sorry, but this is at the point where you can just go, I can rip you in half, and then you do. And then you do. The guy who's been trying to make on your wife this entire time, and he just goes, you can't punch your way out of this? Watch me. Literally watch me.
And now we're at the part of the movie that I mentioned earlier, which is the dark part, the Dark Night of the Soul part of the script here, where Arnold is drinking and crying. I'm not even kidding. He has a complete character turnaround and decides that he's going to go to the winter parade or whatever the hell it's called and get his family back. And then we cut to glamour shots of this parade, and the filmmakers are doing the best they can to make the parade seem awesome and fun. But it's a stupid parade. There's only so much you can do. We talked about this last week. Parades are awful.
I don't know. I will say this about this parade, because this is something that I was wildly shocked by in a movie where so many other corners have clearly been cut. There are a lot of recognizable IPs going on.
And yep,
shocking.
But hold on a second, I says here. But hold on a second. Is that the Tick I see at the parade? Oh my God, it's the Tick. Maybe I'll stick around for a bit. Phil Hartman starts macking on Tom Hanks' wife too hard, and she hits him in the head with a thermos full of eggnog. Of course, it's full of eggnog.
Non-alcoholic eggnog, because it's a children's program.
Arnold sees this go down, and it's about to do something about it when he starts getting chased by the same cop that's been chasing him throughout the movie, which makes Arnold stumble into a warehouse, and the people there mistake him for the guy that's supposed to be Turbo Man at the parade.
By the way, this cop, I want to say he looks like Michael Douglas's stuntman.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Like, he don't look like Michael Douglas, but just enough to where he could be his stuntman at this point.
But I mean, when he was on Wild Wild West, like, he looks like I mean, he's a very, very handsome man in the late 60s, early 70s. But like, when he aged, he did age into like a Michael Douglas-y type person. You're right. I wonder. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are you guys familiar with a 1995 television show called The Adventures of Captain Zoom in Outer Space?
No.
Well, Captain Zoom was the same actor who plays the actual Turbo Man in this. So I think there might have been a little typecasting there, because it kind of is a Turbo Man character he played in 1995.
Huh.
They just we needed a big giant man that we could fit this, because that's how this whole thing started, was like they went with Arnold and then they started the story backwards. How do we get him in this costume to be like a superhero? They're like, Arnold superhero Christmas. How do we just jumble this into a movie? And that's what they did.
Well, you would think that, but there was a script already, and they wanted to have a comedian for this role.
Huh.
And when it came out that Arnold was going to be the star of the movie, there was a guy who was a professor at a college who said that he had given his scripts to one of the big muckety mucks at the studio, and they said they weren't interested in his script, and his script looks remarkably similar to this one. And to the point where he won the verdict, but lost on appeal.
Oh, that's a rough one.
It was like a $15 million verdict too. It was a big verdict.
Yeah, it's huge. Now, remember at the beginning of the review when I said we weren't going to have to worry about that parade? I think this might be the parade they were talking about earlier. As the parade techs put their Turbo Man suit onto Arnold, he's fussing about it, and he's making these noises. And the noises that he's making, it's the same kind of noises that he makes in Total Recall when they're pulling the tracker out of his nose. It's the same noises. He doesn't even have different noises.
Say the word no. Like, I'm sorry, but you don't want to be victim blaming here, but you know what? You might want to start just verbalizing things that are happening that you might not want to happen.
Arnold
don't do that.
Stop it. I am not the person that you were looking for.
Exactly,
My name is John.
One simple word. Arnold makes his way onto the parade float, and Arnold looks great in the Turbo Man suit, don't you think? I think he looks great. It made me think that if Marvel movies would have started in the 90s, he would have made a really great Iron Man.
Ooh, let's not go that far. Come on now.
I'm really glad that that they didn't start making Marvel movies in the 90s, because they would have shoehorned him into something like that. Like, hey, let's make him Ant-Man.
At least they didn't make him a villain in a DC movie.
I would love it.
It's true.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is Hank Pym. The brilliancy just radiates from him.
And wouldn't you know it, Turbo Man has to pick a kid out of the crowd to win a Turbo Man doll.
What a load of malarkey this is.
Also, what a cruel thing to do to the actor who's supposed to be Turbo Man.
Or to all the other children that are out there that get to watch you single
out of all
out.
These children, only one of you is a good child.
And the one that is, and oddly enough, it's my spawn.
He's looking around at the exact right moment of a 4-hour-long parade. Wouldn't you know it, Arnold sees Baby Vader.
Son of a gun.
And picks him to win Turbo Man. Baby Vader walks up onto the float, but hold on. Is that Sinbad dressed as Turbo Man's arch villain? Oh no, that means there's more movie left.
Oh, heck.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, when you see the guy that's like, first of all, this is a very involved production here where this guy's like ziplining in and everything into the middle of the parade, and there's a whole spiel going on. That's a big thing.
Still, the idea of framing Sinbad as the antagonist in this movie, I mean, he wants to get he's a blue collar guy that wants to get a difficult and expensive gift for his son because he doesn't get to see him much because his wife cheated on him and has custody. I mean, he should be the guy we're rooting for. What is wrong with Hollywood in 1996?
I do not understand how blind you can be that this person who is probably clearing like $1 million a year and lives in this great house in this great section of town and so close. I mean, he lives so close to downtown Minneapolis. And it is and he is such a wang. He's so awful in this movie, and he has everything. And because he is a terrible, awful father, and this is who we're following. This is the hero of our movie. When Sinbad should be the hero, it's so angering to me.
Yeah, but like I also get the feeling though that Sinbad's kind of a scummy guy too, because I feel like these two are in the same boats. They may be on different economic scales or whatever, but like I feel like they're both crummy parents.
I know,
Sure.
My uncle was a letter carrier, and you can't just leave because you need to leave. Like as a letter carrier, a lot of your schedule is out of your hands. That's why people were going postal in the 90s.
Yeah.
But this, even his own secretary saying you should have gone by now, and he's just staying there, and it can only be for one reason, because he's a greedy MF. Like there's no other reason. So yeah, when they talk about a movie being tone deaf, this is the movie they should show.
This is
explanation of tone
this
deaf.
is what they should show. Absolutely. So Arnold tries to talk some sense into Sinbad, but the guy who played Booger in Revenge of the Nerds is inside the the booster costume, and you'd better believe it. Oh yeah, he's salty. He's upset that no one is sticking to the script, and Sinbad says, "You know what? Nobody likes you, Booster," and punches him in the face so hard that Booster falls off the float. And the second he hits the ground, a pack of wild children swarm him and start beating the crap out of him.
Just screaming about how they hate him. It's great.
The irony of all this being, of course, that in just a few short years, there's another actor on that float that would play a character people would hate way, way more. Sinbad starts chasing Baby Vader around the parade, trying to steal the Turbo Man doll that he has in his backpack. They climb to the top of a building on top of a Christmas ornament that's about 10 stories high. Arnold remembers he has a jetpack, and in the most believable moment in the movie, turns it on and flies around the city.
Oh, what a weird way to end it.
Come on, Chekhov's jetpack. You knew that was bound to happen. They were like, listen, you got a good jetpack going on here.
In a world where functioning jetpacks exist, Turbo Man would not be the gift every kid wanted.
Yeah, you got to get that
exactly.
turbo jetpack.
And just before baby Vader falls to his death, Arnold flies up and catches him just in time. And because no one can tell it's Arnold under this amazing disguise, Arnold has to take off his mask and shocks everyone.
But
even Tom Hanks' wife, who gets a little horned up that Arnold's dressed as Turbo Man for some reason.
You're missing
Baby
it,
Vader
though.
has a change of heart, gives his Turbo Man doll to Sinbad because we knew that it was going to happen from the very beginning of this movie. And unfortunately, Sinbad is going to miss Christmas altogether because he'll be spending the weekend in prison. And in the first post-credit scene in a superhero movie, Arnold finally puts the star on the top of the tree.
Holy crap, I didn't know there was a post-credit scene.
I didn't either.
And we learn that Arnold forgot a Christmas present for his wife.
Boom. Was there a
Tom
kettle
Hanks'
drum in
wife.
there?
Setting up a possible sequel that never happened because they couldn't afford Arnold again. So they made one with Larry the Cable Guy instead, which doesn't have a single element from this movie.
It's got Christmas. It's got Christmas involved, right? It's got to be a Christmas movie, though.
You're right. And there is a toy that everyone's trying to get. Yes.
I'm going to ask you a genuine question. Does Larry the Cable Guy think he's really buff? Because he was in Jingle All The Way 2, and I think he was in like the Tooth Fairy 2 playing Dwayne The Rock Johnson's character.
He doesn't believe that. As a matter of fact, he makes jokes about it. He knows who he is. Like, the thing about Larry the Cable Guy is that Larry the Cable Guy knows how much his jokes suck. And so it's the reason why people pick on him so often.
And whenever he feels sad, he just looks at his bank account, and then he doesn't feel quite nearly as bad.
Not even. And back when he made that Forbes list for the most powerful people in Hollywood and he cracked the top 100, he probably thought to himself, this is about as far as you can get doing the thing that I've been doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if do you know his history, Bruce? Do you know how?
I mean, I've seen him when he was known as Daniel Whitney doing stand-up, like in a polo shirt and stuff.
Right. But do you know how Daniel Whitley became Larry the Cable Guy?
I just thought he wasn't getting anywhere, so he came up with a character. I don't know.
Well, you're right about you're half right. So, he's not doing very well. He's doing okay. He's a middling comic.
He's doing road dog work.
He is. He's a middle act. He's doing fine, but he's not, he's not breaking through. And his friend has a radio station, has his own radio show at a radio station in Miami. And so he starts doing this character called Larry the Cable Guy, where he's like a fake call-in person. And the character becomes so popular that he starts showing up at the radio station all the time. And the character gets more and more popular to the point that when Dan Whitney is performing stand-up in Miami, people are getting pissed that he's not the guy from the radio show.
Oh, man.
So he becomes the guy from the radio show.
I couldn't.
And that's how that happens.
Got to be rough for anybody. It's going to be like, you got to put on this personality.
I do. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now it's all about the podcast, baby. That's right. We over here. Before we get to our final review of this modern day masterpiece, we have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how in the world? And this is going to be pretty tough one for him to put together. I'm fairly certain on this one. Sean, how in the world can we relate this movie back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone? Can it be done?
Thank you, Adam. I have yet another prepared statement.
Oh.
Hello, Mr. Stallone. The only way the Stallone connection could get easier is if you showed up in the movie yourself.
Oh.
Arnold Schwarzenegger has been your friend and business partner since the early 2000s when you were both investors in Planet Hollywood, a chain of restaurants that had crap all over its walls, but the crap on their walls were movie props. But I'm sure it was cool to be seated at a table where the drop ship from 1998's Lost in Space was hanging over your head. Over the last 20 years, you have appeared in each other's movies, like when Arnold showed up in your movie in a cameo a couple of times for the Expendables movies. And of course, when you both starred in the 2013 movie Escape Plan, a movie that no longer exists. I've heard no one anywhere reference this movie in 10 years, even though it's not as bad as people think. So there's your Stallone connection this week, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Well, you know what killed Escape Plan, right? Escape Plan 2.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Is that the one that had Larry the Cable Guy?
When Larry the Cable Guy replaced Schwarzenegger, it just wasn't the same. You know, him and Stallone just don't have the same repartee as him and Arnold. So, you know, you do what you gotta do.
And Stallone got replaced by Yakov Smirnoff.
Ooh, I think that's a step up.
When in prison, the soap drops you. Wait a minute. All right, here at HMP, we got our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does Jingle All The Way fall on the Robin rating system for you?
You know, it's just not my cup of tea. Not awful, but not my cup of tea. I'm going to give it the old Stephanie Brown, which is kind of the forgettable rating from me.
That's fair enough. Sean?
I hate this movie with a blinding passion. This is the kind of movie I hate the most, where it is people who are really good at making movies get together. They have an inferior script because there is nothing funny. There's nothing different about the script. It's a completely jaded, mean-spirited, like the spirit of Christmas is completely lost in this Christmas movie. I understand that millennials grew up with this movie, so they have, you know, the halcyon days of yore thing happening with this movie.
Yeah.
But I did not grow up with it, and I hate this movie. To me, it is a Jason Todd. This is the worst kind of movie you can make.
Yeah, this is tough because I'm kind of vacillating between the Stephanie Brown and Jason Todd. I'm going to say a very low Stephanie Brown because like there's parts of this that are, you know, you got your Phil Hartman bits where like he's so smarmy, he's so gross.
He is the best part of the movie, yes.
And you know, not that she's got a lot to do, but Rita Wilson's doing pretty good with what, you know, little morsels
that they
because
she's a woman.
Yeah, she's a woman in the 90s.
90s movie.
This is not her film at all. We're just like, we need you to look pretty and sit here, sweetheart. And she does. And she in that nightgown. Hello, we're doing some stuff. Good job, movie. You know what I'm saying? But I also love how old everybody is. That's another great thing. Just like Arnold is 49 years old when this movie's being shot. He looks awful. Like when you really look now, you're just like, oh, look at this dyed hair of this man trying to just hold on to that youth so hard.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, it's kind of like and again, that's what I see John Cena right now, where I'm just like, not a gray hair on this man's head and a color that God has not existed and made up or anything. This was clearly made in a lab by a scientist.
But instead of going that weird chestnut red that Schwarzenegger has, he has that Ronald Reagan black.
Oh yeah,
that terrible stuff, or the Paul McCartney, all of that crap. It's like, what are you guys doing? Just cut it out. It's no good. But yeah, this is ultimately it's forgettable. But there is like you kind of got to laugh at some of the Jake Lloyd stuff. The kid's just. He's a memeable guy, and like I feel bad the whole situation with him. It sucks, and like nobody deserves to be treated horribly for sure. But at the same time, too, this probably just wasn't the career for him. All things told, and you know what are you gonna do? You're a kid, you know.
That's true.
So I can't put too
sure
much of a harsh on
parents
him.
were totally healthy and had nothing.
Oh
to do
yeah, because that's TV movie parents usually the best. I hear it. Really, just listening to their children, what their children want and need and stuff. But then again, you do hear some of those that are like really spectacular and that you know that never had these problems. But boy, there are some of them that do. That is it, everybody. Another one down in the book, and we're almost finished with the year here at HMP. We got a New Year's coming right around the corner, but in the meantime, Bruce, where else can we find work on your internet? Here you had a little bit of a premiere.
Well, unless things change between when we recorded this and when people are hearing it, you should be able to see Werewolf Fighter, the movie I've worked really hard and feel very passionately about, and I had a lot of fun doing on YouTube. So go to the old YouTube channel, youtube.com/Bruce Leslie, at Anime Dad, or just search Werewolf Fighter. There can't be too many of them, or Bruce Leslie Werewolf Fighter. There's a lot of combinations that'll get you there.
Yeah, or you can just click the link in the show notes.
Watch it
there.
though. I'd really like people to just at least check it out and see what you think.
Give it a gander, why don't you? Sean, what else?
Let's just say go see Bruce's movie.
Go see
Werewolf
Bruce's
Fighting.
movie, everybody. Next week is episode 500, everybody. And as a count, we want to do something a little bit special. 500 episodes. And for whatever reason, there's a good reason. We'll talk about it next week. But 500 episodes, and we have never talked about The Dark Knight. And that's what we're going to do for episode 500. So join us next week for The Dark Knight. And email us. Email us your reviews and what you think. Go back, revisit Dark Knight, look at that, see what you think. What were your thoughts? What did you think then? What did you think now? Email us at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. And of course, the people over at patreon.com/HMP are going to have the preferential treatment. So join us back here next week for episode 500 when we finally review The Dark Knight. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for The Dark Knight. For Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.